Let's get some perspective now and insight into the stories we brought you before the break, the North Korea hostage settlement and what comes next, the Iran deal and other stories. Senior political analyst Brit Hume joins us tonight in studio. Good to have you back in D.C.
Thanks, Brett. Good to be back.
Your thoughts on, this is a big development, obviously, with these 3 Americans landing tonight or early this morning. But it is setting the table for what the president hopes will be something bigger.
Yeah, indeed. And, you got the president now being confronted with questions about whether he's a likely candidate for the Nobel Prize. And to some extent, at least, he's pushed back against that idea. But I think, he really does obviously hope that this is going to turn into a kind of an agreement, a credible, enforceable, verifiable agreement on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which would be a huge achievement. Now, make no mistake about it, though, this thing that happened today, the return of these hostages, is important in the sense that it wasn't very many months ago, Brett, when people were saying that by his saber-rattling and bellicose attitude, Donald Trump was bringing us to the brink of war in the Korean Peninsula.
You heard it a lot.
We heard it a lot. And look where we are now. It has had obviously the opposite effect. That doesn't mean that we're headed for the land of hope and glory over there, but it is a significant achievement to get this far. But obviously, a lot remains to be seen. On
the other big nuclear issue, on Iran, it seems like the Europeans are trying to talk to Iran separate of the U.S. pulling out of this deal. That doesn't seem to be like a realistic prospect, does it?
It doesn't at the moment, but the big question here, the key question is, how much difference to Iran will the reimposition of American sanctions make? Now, the American banking system is central to the whole world economy. You don't want to be shut out of it. Our allies don't want to run afoul of that as either. So there are reasons why we might hope that the reimposition of American sanctions will make a difference to Iran and to our allies as to whether they will join us in trying to pressure Iran into making a separate or different deal. We can't tell now, and a lot of people, you hear the people from the Obama administration saying this is a disaster, that now all the shackles are off and Iran will sprint toward a nuclear weapon. I'm not sure they'll do that. But I think, that the policy of being tough and strong and wielding sanctions has shown in North Korea that it can work. And it may now show that it can work with Iran as well.
All this pushback that America is telling the world that it doesn't live up to its commitments, one administration to the next. The response from supporters of this move say, well, the President Obama could have made it a treaty.
Well, he could have, and of course, the reason he didn't, obviously, was he knew that it couldn't pass, that this deal couldn't pass the Senate. I mean, it probably couldn't even have gotten a majority in the Senate, which is because the deal is problematic from the jump. And so
Democrats spoke out against it.
A lot of Democrats spoke out against it, and a lot of them are now howling about what he's doing or were bitching about the deal back then. So, there's a lot of shoe on the other foot stuff going on here, Brett, which is a disease in Washington that,
I know very well.
Affects both parties.
Yeah, very quickly, the Gina Haspel testimony today and the hearing, it seems like she has a lot of support inside the intelligence community, clearly, but there is a split along party lines in the questioning, at least.
Boy, is there ever. And what I'd say about it is it looks as if she hasn't lost any Republicans. If she did, she might go down. She picked up one Democrat today, but one Democrat can make all the difference in the world. That subtracts one from the group that would be voting against her and adds one to those who will. It means that if John McCain doesn't come back, the Republicans are down to a 51 vote. They lose Rand Paul, they're at 50. Joe Manchin, all other things being equal and everybody voting along party lines, would give her a majority. So I think, on balance tonight, it looks good for her. And, Brett, this really is a case with the complaints about her of retroactive morality. She got kind of stumped by the question from Kamala Harris, who asked her, do you think that the enhanced interrogation techniques were immoral, right? Well, by the standards of that day and time, and by the ruling by the Justice Department, the answer has got to be no. She didn't want to say that. But, of course, by today's standards now, everybody's now on their high horse about this, the answer is that it would be immoral. So that's where we are, retroactive morality all the way around.
Brett, as always, great to have you here.
Thanks, Brett.